new Gallup report shows that the federal government is now seen as the least trusted institution to act in the public's best interest.
Yeah, so what does that say about where Americans put their confidence, and what does it mean for the future? We're joined live now by Dr. Cynthia Clark. She's a John W. Paduska Professor of Governance at Bentley University. Sorry, that's a mouthful, where the study was conducted. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
So can you discuss first how you were able to conduct this study, who you polled? There's oftentimes a lot of conversation about how these polls come about.
Yes, we conducted this in May of this year, but it's also our fourth running of the study. And we took a cross-section of Americans, political party, age, geography, and so on, to get a real nice sample size.
Okay. Yeah, so you mentioned that these results were gathered back in May. Talk about the timing and the recent political climate to explain why this trust is so low. Were you able to make sense of it?
Yes, that's an interesting point. It's possible that things have changed, but one of the things we saw is that confidence in government is weak across all political parties. It has increased among the Republican Party over time, but we do see this sort of consistent effect.
Can you talk about, when you're looking at those, we just showed the numbers on the screen, it looks like confidence in local institutions tends to be a little bit higher there. Can you talk a little bit about that trend and if it points to kind of a growing divide potentially between national and local trust in government?
Yeah, this is a really interesting finding because we do see, for example, Americans having this idea that the federal government is the most powerful of all the institutions we studied, but it has the lowest amount of trust. Just 31% trust the federal government a lot or somewhat. But that compares to state and local governments at about 50%. So that's a little bit higher. Democrats tend to have a lot of faith in the local government, whereas Republicans tend to have a lot of faith in business. And that's also an interesting finding, this power and effectiveness gap. That's one of the key takeaways, I think, of the study.
Interesting. Okay, so what are some of the steps the federal government could do to start regaining the public's trust?
I think one of the key factors in that for any institution, and frankly, people themselves, right, is consistency breeds trust. So one of the things it can do is to continue to be consistent about what its policies are and what its vision for the future is. It also could work, as we all know, toward re-engaging people that are feeling disengaged, that don't share the same views as government. So that's really an important idea. It also needs to be clear about what the role of states and local governments are, because the Trump administration has changed its view on those things. And yet we know from our study that state and local governments have a little bit more trust among the American people.
What are we putting in trust in these days? Did you find there? Because I feel like people don't trust science right now. They don't trust government, it looks like. So what are we trusting?
Charities and social advocacy groups. Which I also think is an important thing for the federal government to know. So who is it partnering with? Right now, it's partnering a lot with business, as we can see, right? So, you know, these different deals, these equity stakes and golden shares and export revenue deals, basically what Washington is saying is we want to have private-public partnerships. But in some ways, the fact that business is often connected to these social advocacy groups and charities is also a real good signal for the federal government to do the same.
Okay. Well, Dr. Cynthia Clark, it's fascinating information. Thanks for doing the poll and thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.